Why South Sudan? An Every Village podcast where we answer questions about the world's youngest nation. The question of the day is, what is your favorite part about traveling to South Sudan? Hey everyone, this is Tianna Johnston, your host of this podcast called Why South Sudan, where we answer one wonderful question about the world's newest nation. And today we are going a little wild as we have two of our favorite people on staff here in the studio. We have Mr. Blake Jones.
Hey guys, glad to be back.
And the one and only Andrew Brown.
Hey Tiana, this is really wild.
I know that we did this many episodes back and we were like, you know what, let's do it again. It was a lot of fun. So today's topic is fun just because actually at the time of this episode airing, we already have went on a trip and we all love going to South Sudan. We've been all many times. I should actually count how many times I've been.
Yeah.
I don't know how many you've been.
It's hard. Yeah, it's hard to know because when I lived there, when I lived in Uganda, I went a number of times. So I typically think about it from number of departures from the U.S. to South Sudan, but some of those times I was living in Uganda. So yeah, I should look as well. But I think in the 12 to 15 range for me of times landing in South Sudan from another country.
Yeah. And then Andrew's a ton.
Yeah, I think I'm the high 40s.
That's impressive.
I think that's what we worked out when we were there last June.
That's so cool. All right. So the question is, what is your favorite part about traveling to South Sudan? So Blake, take it away.
Well, I would be remiss if I didn't first say seeing the people. That's what you call Jesus Juke, guys. But in all seriousness, it is, especially in this being my second stint at Every Village, it is my favorite part because we're just so connected now, like virtually. We can talk to the guys and all the time. Like we have meetings with them weekly with WhatsApp now. They're texting at all hours of the day, talking about programs or coming up with ideas. And it just wasn't like that 10 years ago. And so, of course, then it was exciting to go see them. But now you have all of these things that come up that you want to talk about. And it's exciting to be able to say to someone like Archangelo, hey, this is a great idea. Let's talk about it more when I get there. And just, I think when you're loosely connected, it just makes you more and more excited to be fully connected and deeply connected when you're there each of those times. So that's definitely what I'm looking forward to most for this upcoming trip, for sure.
Yeah, that's a good one. I mean, when visiting our South Sudanese team, I think a couple things come to mind of like what I love. I love, like Blake said, just deepening a relationship year after year. Second, I just love seeing how our staff just continue to grow in their capacity and their vision and their, execution, all of those things. It's a joy of my life. And then also there's just some of our South Sudanese staff that are just super funny. And I like just sitting with them, either laughing with them as they're talking, or sometimes I'll be across the room and or outside, across the compound, whatever, just watching them and just watch them, like they love to sit and laugh together. And it just makes me happy and laugh. So anyway, I do love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, I think we all would echo, because even imagining, okay, let's say we're landing in Tanj, and just getting off the plane it's just so fun because there's people from the village. There's also our staff that's there to meet us and greet us, and you're hugging and handshaking, not so much hugging, but you're just so excited to see each other. And then you get to all pile in this Land Cruiser and then travel to the compound, and then everybody's there to greet you there, and they're so excited for you to be there.
Yeah, well, I mean, one of the things that you just slipped by that is one of my favorite parts is getting off the plane, because for me, it's crazy because I've been on a lot of trips, and yet I actually don't really like airplane travel. I mean, commercial flights, it's not a problem for me at all, but we charter these, little Cessna single prop planes that aren't pressurized, and I get motion sick. And it's not uncommon. It's not like it's every flight, but it's not uncommon for me to not feel amazing. And after several jumps, because you're having to stop for fuel along the way multiple times, I'm typically ready to get off that plane. So one of my favorite parts of traveling to South Sudan is getting off the plane for the last time.
Yeah.
It's so true. A fun fact about Andrew you can tell when he does not feel good. Like his face, he looks green. I don't even know. So he's not feeling well, and you do feel really bad. But it is true. Yeah, especially when you're flying in the afternoon because of the heat. Like heat rising. Oh man, it makes for
it's
bumpy.
just bumpier for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
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 Oh man, yeah. Oh, but it's so fun. I don't know why. Just even talking about it makes it so fun.
Yeah.
So then, like, imagining now going on to the compound, and so being on the compound, I do agree, Andrew. Just sitting around and talking and laughing and catching up, and just seeing everybody. But something else I'd probably say too. I think I miss greeting everyone here in America, where I don't know, you just like don't greet every single person that you see. You just kind of go to the store and do your business and, put a podcast in your ear and shop and do all the things. But there, it's like, no, you're going to say hi to majority of people that you see.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's so friendly in that way. And it definitely delights my soul that you get to be that friendly with that many people every day. And we've, I think, talked about it some here, but the greetings are really fun and funny, and they're just very much long hellos with everyone. And so it makes for not a very efficient work environment, but a very fun and friendly one.
It is funny because if you do translate it, like you're saying literally hello, 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 like a solid 10, 15 times, like so many times.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a lot of fun.
So that's definitely people. How about, do you guys have any that come to mind that are non-people related?
Oh man, I love sleeping on my hammock. So when I'm in South Sudan, I almost exclusively sleep in a hammock. It depends, of course. Sometimes we're in a place that doesn't have trees to hang the hammock, or we're on the road, or in a place that I need to be in a bed, which is fine. But I love hammock sleeping, and so on our compounds we've got these, we call them verandas, but they're open. They don't have any walls. They're just tree. Posts and then grass thatched roofs that are circular, and they're perfect because there's a bunch of different tree posts all the way around the circle, and then a center post. And so I just hitch my hammock up, and I love sleeping that way in the open air.
Yeah, it's a truly impressive thing to be able to do. I cannot sleep in a hammock
for
much longer than 30 minutes.
There was one time, I don't even know what happened. I don't know if a water well was drilled or we went to a church. I'm not quite sure what happened, or radios were delivered. But somebody donated a goat to the compound. Mm-hmm. And so the staff kept the goat to fatten it up and then have a big celebration at one time. And so Andrew was sleeping in the hammock, and the goat came up and was like,
gored you.
He was like headbutting me for sure. Yeah. I think that was 2019. Funny. Yeah.
That's really
funny.
Yeah,
that'll startle you in the night. That's for sure.
Yeah.
What you don't experience here in America.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like, I look forward to, even now, I'm looking forward to the evenings, every evening, especially in Tanj. There's this really beautiful, we have like neighborhood, if you will, across the main road from our compound. That's, there's just some staff members that live along this really cool trail, and it's just really beautiful when the sun sets. I think it's such a stark contrast to me, the evenings and the mornings, but I'll speak specifically in the evenings, than the rest of the day in South Sudan, because it's so hot and there's no air conditioning and you're just outside all day. So that going in. But why the evenings are so special there compared to us in America is all day in America we're inside and we're comfortable. And then the evening comes and, it's nice if you can get outside here. But there, you're outside all day, and then you have this amazing relief and coolness when the sun sets. And it's not like it's cold, but the sun starts setting, and it's not as hot, and you have this relief, and then people are moving about, and it's just a really cool time. And so I look forward to that a lot. It's you just have this feeling of relief. And then bedtime's kind of earlier, and that's nice. It's just the pace of life. You really feel it, like the benefit of that slower pace. And I see it a lot in the evening.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. And I was going to say slow paced. I mean, I'm so excited just to be able, like, I just love nature. I love being out in the woods. Like, I'm a country girl at heart. So like, that just fills my love tank so much. And so being in South Sudan, it is just so beautiful. And just to hear the birds chirping and to not, our schedule here in America is coming to the office, and as much as I enjoy seeing y'all's lovely faces every day and staring at a computer screen a majority of the time, just being there, and just being with the people and just being able to be so, I think, just aware of God's presence and being less distracted.
Yeah, and I was with that, not only the slower pace of life, but also just the being disconnected from your phone, from your computer. I don't have an international data plan intentionally. I kind of like going off the grid, and so we do have internet on our compounds now. But it's, first off, it's not high speed internet, and it's pretty spotty. And secondly, I'm not sitting there all day on my phone. It's a totally different environment. And so I'll check in on my phone a little bit, but for the most part, I go 2 weeks without being on my phone really. And I do sometimes bring a laptop, of course. I might have to do some work, but in general, I prefer to leave that in my backpack and don't do a lot of screen time. But I'm doing work. I'm with people, and that's real work, right? And so you start to recognize, man, life is so much more pure in some respects when you remove technology. And obviously, technology is an amazing tool, and we're a radio ministry, of course. It's an amazing thing, but it's also a real pleasure. Something I look forward to is taking that break for a couple weeks, from the normal.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, it's interesting because I do like having the ability to check in on Katie. Hey, how are you doing? And check in on Navy, our 1-year-old daughter who just turned 1. So it is really nice, but I also see it as an opportunity to take it slow. So I'm thankful for it, that we have access to it. And I'm thankful that it's kind of slow sometimes, so it's not like full access,
For sure. Okay, so fun question. Okay, so let's say, can you remember a trip that might have been like, you know what, that was one of the top ones, and why? If you can think of a trip maybe that you can share.
Well, I mean, I've got many, but it was going to be what I was going to say next. With one thing I love traveling to South Sudan is I love when plans go awry. And when you end up in a crazy, unexpected experience. I love that. I'm kind of adventurous, and I love flying by the seat of my pants. And so, those experiences are just treasures. And you end up in places you're just like, literally, like almost nobody else in the world has ever witnessed this or experienced something like this. And I see those as treasures, just real memories. So anyway, I mean, I'm certainly happy to share like a specific story, but like for now, that's just like something that I absolutely love about traveling to South Sudan, and it's amazing.
Yeah, I really, my favorite trip was this past one that we've been on, and I think the kinds of trips that I like are when we are moving around the country a lot. And so this past trip we did that, and we did it back in June, and Andrew does it every January, February when we take board members. I just really like seeing the country, like the large swath of the country, and being on trips where you get to see each team, like each location, Mavola, Tanja, Wheel, sometimes Nasser if the rains are cooperating, all on the same trip. So you fly in, and then you're in a location for 2 days, and then you're flying again. So the pilot's always with you, and you're just traveling on the country a lot, and it's very dynamic to me, and I like it more than spending like 10 days in one place. So I just prefer that. I think because it's dynamic,
Oh, totally. Yeah, I think for me, my last trip was with my husband, who I got to bring back so they could meet Daniel. And so we had like a wedding celebration, and it was so good. But it really was seeing Mon Mabwich. So she was one of our workers at the time, but she no longer works with us. And she's just seeing her grow in the Lord and everything. But she came. So she was kind of like me and Christina Roberts, or now Christina Panetta, her kind of our mom at the time. I don't know. She was just oh man, we laughed with her so much. And so seeing her, I like literally sobbed, just because it was full circle. It was just so redemptive from the time that I lived there to years later, and still seeing her walk with the Lord was just such a blessing. So, yeah.
Yeah, related to that, I just love the opportunities to share the gospel boldly with people in South Sudan. It's probably not a good excuse in the West, but people just aren't as open. They're not interested. It's hard to start that conversation. Lives are busy. We just don't. I don't know. It's just not. It's not a honestly, it's just not particularly fertile environment here. And there's obviously moments, and God is working in people's hearts, but it's just different. Over there, though, people are very hungry and open to the gospel. They're open to spiritual things. And that's even, we've talked about spearmasters, witch doctors on this podcast. I mean, people like that you wouldn't necessarily expect, or you might think that they're super adversarial. And that's not the case at all. They just, I've never heard it. And so I don't know. I feel like God fills me with an extra measure of boldness sometimes in South Sudan, where I can just be really direct. And the South Sudanese are very direct people themselves.
Yeah,
So it's easy. It's just like, you just call it for what it is and tell them and call them to repent and turn to Christ. And man, those moments of it's just, you feel spiritually alive. And you realize, man, this is what we're made to be. So I love that aspect as well.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. It's kind of the reverse. Like South Sudan is really a training ground for us sharing our gospel or sharing the gospel here. You typically think about it the opposite way. Like, I'm going to prepare myself to share the gospel when I go on a mission trip. But I really think it's the mission trips are what prepare you to share the gospel here. And one of the reasons that is Andrew touched on it, like the South Sudanese are just a really open people. So they just give you a chance to share. But also, when you're traveling on a mission field, your fear of like sharing with your people group, like that's one of the biggest things that keeps us from sharing the gospel in the U.S. It's not that we're not as open, it's that we are afraid of our own culture. Like, we're afraid of offending people in our own culture. Well, that fear is kind of gone when you're in another culture. And that's amazing, an amazing thing, because that barrier is gone. And so you get a chance to do it. And I think it's cool that we get to come back and share that with our own culture. There is more fear. It does require more boldness to share in our own culture, because we're afraid of offending our own culture. It's just how fear works. I think it's really cool to think of it that way, as South Sudan is a training ground for how I will live the rest of my life. And it's amazing that we get to go, some of us 3 times a year, into that training ground, and that's cool. Like, I'm excited to share that with our staff as well. Like, like, we are so built up by coming to this country, and it not only is it building up the South Sudanese, but it's helping to build up the church in America, our community and our spheres of influence here in the U.S.
Yeah, and just tied to that, I mean, going back to people, we obviously at the beginning we're talking about just our love for seeing the people of South Sudan, but I also love going on trips with other Americans who've never been there before and getting to experience South Sudan through their eyes for the first time. And then also, just when you travel to such a harsh environment together for a few weeks, like, you experience things that really, connect you in a unique way. And so like, just some of the friendships and relationships and memories that I've been able to form with other Americans through my travels are just sweet, sweet memories. And that's for people that have only been one time, and then for people that have been with me in South Sudan many times. Like, we just have this whole cachet of like sweet memories, and it's an amazing thing as well. So
it really does like bond you as a team,
for sure.
So not even just with us, but even with the South Sudanese. Like, it's just, it's so good.
Yeah,
it's
an amazing bonding experience.
I love it. Oh, it's so good. I'm so excited. All right, guys. Well, thanks so much for coming on today and sharing your hearts about trips in South Sudan. And if any of our listeners would love to go on a trip, we would love for you to reach out to Blake Jones.
Yes, blake.jones@everyvillage.org. Or you can submit a trip interest form on the website.
Excellent. Yes, he is our trip coordinator. He is the master of trips, and he does a beautiful job. I very much so enjoy him leading the trips that I'm on.
Thanks, dude.
So good work. Very proud of you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we invite everyone back to the next episode as we answer the question, why is monthly giving so important to a ministry? Take care.